Hello, everyone. My name is Jung. I'm an only child in my own right, but every time I go out in public with my mom, they say, "What a beautiful sister you have." The thing is, my mother looks 20 years old. Once it got in my way. My mother's name is Kim, and our age difference is 20 years, so she is now 36. My mom always looked great. For as long as I can remember, she's been wearing makeup in the morning and in the evening. My father admires her beauty every day, and my mother says that it's all about blood. We are Koreans. We age slowly outwardly. And then literally in one day, we are closer to old age. I believed her because I had a clear example before my eyes. My mother and I were about the same height, 160 centimeters, but I was a little plumper, and my mother is slim. I was already used to loud compliments to her every time we went to the stores or to the market for food. At first, I didn't think it was because my mom looked great, but rather that I didn't look great. But then she found out that she was told that in any society. And then I began to take advantage of this. A young mother is a mother who understands. She taught me how to use cosmetics and bought a separate one for me, for young skin. She allowed me to wear her things, shoes, and made me beautiful hairstyles without any problems. I love to record videos and post everything online. My mother never refused to participate in commercials. She had a great sense of humor and sang divinely. We didn't look much alike. I looked more like my father. I only shared my secrets about guys with her. I knew that she would always support and give good advice. Just recently, I met a guy named Lin. He was new in our class. Oh, all my classmates noticed such a handsome boy. And oddly enough, he began to communicate more with me than anyone else. There was no limit to my happiness. We sat together in class, and every day he brought me some fruit for lunch. It's the cutest thing you can think of. Lynn started courting me and returned the favor. I told my mother about our first kiss, and she wished me luck and told me not to lose my head. I knew she was happy for me, even though she was very worried. Lynn and I went on dates 1 to 2 times a week, to the movies, to cafes, or just for a walk. We always had something to talk about. I fell more and more in love with him. Once, he even wrote a song in my honor and sang it when we were sitting in the park at sunset. It was beautiful. Then came my birthday. Lynn and I decided to celebrate with friends at the club. He promised to pick me up in the evening, told me to be ready by 7. All day, my mother and I ran around looking for an outfit for me, and I found the perfect dress and shoes. I couldn't wait to show my favorite guy. "You're just a princess," my mother said as she helped me get ready for the party. She gave me one last hug, and I just had to put the finishing touches on it. The bell rang in the house, and my mother ran to open the door. It was my lover. Beaming with happiness and sequins, I went down the stairs. My mother was just talking to him about something. I kissed her on the cheek, and we went to the club. "You didn't say you had a sister," Lynn said on the way. "I don't have one. It's my mother," I said. His face changed in an instant. It was evident that he was shocked. "Your mom? She looks so young," he said. I reassured him by telling him that he wasn't the first person to say that. The evening was fun and easy, except that Lynn was acting a little strange. Not as usual. "Is everything all right?" I asked him when we parted, but he assured me that everything was fine. All the time that followed, Lynn seemed to be thinking about something. He skipped questions, often got confused in the answers, always thinking about something. I told my mother about it, and she suggested that I invite him to dinner with us. It was a great idea. We made dinner, and Lynn came in time. Dad was on a business trip at the time, so the 3 of us spent the evening together. "This is for you," he said, handing a bunch of flowers to my mom. She was flattered and politely thanked him. "Why are you dressed up like this? We're not going to a restaurant," I told him and laughed. He was embarrassed. This evening, I saw it from the other side, as it is. Strange, unusual. Lynn talked a lot, asked my mother a million questions, and laughed. I suddenly felt that the evening was passing me by. You are familiar with the phrase, "third extra"? So this is about me. Then, Lynn left without even kissing me. My mood sank at the end. My mother started asking questions about what had happened, because everything was wonderful. "Didn't I tell you we didn't have any secrets?" So I told her to her face, "I think he's got a crush on you." I told her. My mother's eyes almost popped out of her head in surprise, but I still had an unpleasant feeling in my heart. I couldn't stop thinking that I was right. How disgusting is it that your boyfriend falls in love with your mother? Ugh. What should I do now? After half an hour of denial, my mother finally gave up. She said it was a ridiculous situation and she was embarrassed. I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm sorry, she said, but I knew that it wasn't my mother's fault. Lynn called the next day. I had a dry chat with him, and he said he would come to visit me. No, I want to go for a walk, I said curtly. I heard that he was upset, but I didn't care. In the evening, I went out to him on the street, and we went to the park. He asked almost nothing about me, but he asked 1,000 questions about my mother. Then I broke down and exploded. I was filled with jealousy, anger, stupidity of the situation. Can you stop talking about my mom? Aren't you ashamed at all? She is my mother, and you are openly hitting on her, I shouted at him. Lynn strenuously denied it. You thought I was being polite and paying more attention to her. I wanted to make a positive impression, nothing more, he said, but I didn't believe him. I knew too well when he was lying. The problem was that I fell head over heels in love with this guy, but I knew that such a relationship would not go far. Gathering my thoughts, I took a deep breath and said we should break up. Lynn was sad, but I was also hurt. I called a taxi and went home hysterical. My mother calmed me for a long time. She comforted me with gentle strokes on the head. I didn't realize I'd fallen asleep. All of a sudden, I had a dream about my mom getting a divorce from my dad and marrying my ex-boyfriend. Oh no, this is terrible. This can't be happening, I screamed. I woke up screaming, a lump in my throat, my hands shaking. And suddenly, I heard my mother arguing with someone. I crept out into the hall and saw Lynn standing outside the door, and my mother talking to him. He is holding a bouquet of flowers. I moved closer to hear the conversation. I couldn't believe it. He confessed his love for her, you bastard! My mother told him sternly that he was old enough to be a father, that he was not worthy of her daughter, and that he should get out of our lives once and for all. She was so angry, and then she took the flowers from his hands and threw them away. Go away and don't come back, she screamed. What was it like for me? It was awful, disgusting and bad. But despite the situation, my relationship with my mother has not changed. I realized that Lynn was just not the right person for me. What would you do if you were me? Write an answer in the comments and subscribe to this channel. There are still a lot of more interesting stories to come.
Every girl having flaws in appearance dreams of correcting them. I'm no exception. I really didn't like my nose. It marred my face, distorted all my beauty. All the nose first, then she jokes are about me. My dissatisfaction with the years only accumulated, and then one day I exploded and decided to have plastic surgery. My name is Kat, by the way. Many people now think that I may be too critical of myself, that I have low self-esteem, or I have nothing stupid to do, but this is not the case. Since early childhood, I began to complex this potato on my face. Every time I looked at fashion magazines or music videos, I only paid attention to the nose of models and stars. Have you ever seen Miss Universe have a nose bigger than her face? No. Even in fairy tales, princesses always had everything in proportion. It seems that only my parents admired their daughter's beauty. My mother said I was making it up, but I knew she was calming me down. But no, there was another person, my classmate Jim. He's my best friend and always said I was too fixated on my nose. He was a devoted friend and could find the right words in a bad mood. So, last summer I had a birthday, and closer to this date, my parents asked what gift I would like to get. Well, I didn't hesitate to answer, plastic surgery! Mom and Dad were taken aback. They began to complain that the ugliness of my nose was just a fantasy, and again began to shower meaningless compliments. I was firm in my choice and said that I would still do the operation. After a couple days of persuasion, they agreed. I found a clinic myself. It was one of the best in our city. I made an appointment for a consultation with a doctor, after which I was assigned the day of the operation. I went there with my mother. I was still terribly excited and scared because I had never been on the operating table in my life. The doctor put a mask on my face and told me to count to 10. I fell asleep on the number 7. I remember dreaming that I wake up and see that the doctors made my nose even bigger, even uglier. It's like I come to class and my classmates are laughing at me and everyone has a potato instead of a head. Then I look in the mirror and I see that I also have potatoes. I screamed and woke up in a cold sweat, and my mother immediately began to comfort me. It turns out that I began to recover from the anesthesia and I imagined all sorts of things. My face was bandaged. It was painful, and terrible edema prevented me from fully moving my face, eating, and talking. Then everything healed well, and finally, when the last bandages were removed, I saw my reflection in the mirror in all its glory. They made me the nose I wanted. The nose, not the nose. Now my face looked feminine and neat, and I felt pretty as hell. I didn't tell anyone about my change except Jim. He was terribly upset, but I didn't care. The operation just fell on summer holidays, so I have enough time to recover more or less and get used to the new image. My classmates were initially offended that I did not communicate with them and generally disappeared for a while, but I wanted to surprise them. After staying at home for a while, the first thing I did was call my friends and ask them to go for a walk. Before that, I dressed up. I felt changes not only outside, but also inside me, so I decided to change the image as well. Finally, everyone will know that I am beautiful and stop laughing at me. That night, I appeared to the girls completely different, a new cat. Everyone was delighted. I received a lot of compliments, and they were all real, sincere. I wanted to walk and walk so that everyone could see the new me, confident. In general, that evening, I had unforgettable emotions. I came home in full ecstasy. I was smiling like never before and still couldn't get enough of my reflection. The next day, Jim came to see me. He's probably the only one who messed it up. He said that I looked better before, that I shouldn't have made such sacrifices for the opinion of spoiled classmates, called me characterless, and left. I couldn't believe. I thought he was my best friend. We were friends for so many years. I always helped him with his studies, was there when it was necessary, and he dares to come to my house and just spoil the mood? Get out of here! If you don't like the new me, you don't have to talk. I really need you after this. You can't even be happy for me like our classmates. I shouted at him. Jim listened to everything and then turned away and started to leave, but said in the end, "You were always beautiful, especially inside yourself. The operation disfigured not only your nose, but all of you. You always cared about the opinions of your spoiled classmates. They don't care about you," he shouted. I hated him for saying that and sent him away. We didn't speak for the rest of the holidays. Then school started, and we met at school. Despite the incident with Jim, I had to be on top. So I dressed up as prettily as possible and came to school. The day before, I imagined walking into the classroom and all eyes would be directed in my direction. It was very exciting. Finally, I will be the most beautiful and my classmates will stop laughing at me. But as soon as I entered, instead of exclamations of admiration, I heard a giggle. My smile disappeared from my face. I didn't understand what was happening or why they were laughing. I was supposed to be the most beautiful. Then the teacher came into the classroom and interrupted my train of thought. At the end of the lesson, I was approached by the same classmates who we met on vacation. They said I would never be one of them. "You will always be nosy cat to us," one of them whispered sarcastically. I was alone again. I couldn't hold back my tears. Hysterical, I went home and locked myself in my room. I was so disappointed, and I don't know who I was most angry at, myself or them. In the evening, Jim came to see me. He said that he saw everything and reminded me again how real I am. "I told you you were beautiful inside and out. It doesn't matter if you have an operation. Is it important for what? To become better for yourself or to win the attention of worthless people?" he asked. I thought about his words and realized that what really matters is not so much external changes as internal ones. And my life after the operation clearly showed this.